Maybe you have heard the term title search or title search report, and today I'm going to tell you all of the key details that you need to pay attention to make sure that you understand your title search. The first thing that you're going to be looking at in a title search report is an identification of the property. So this will include the address, and oftentimes it'll say commonly known as 123 Main Street. And that's important because the address is not what actually determines what the property is, it's the legal description. And the legal description will be something that you'll see in the property identification section of the title report. And this could be referring to a subdivision plat, or it could be a meets and bounds legal description, but that is actually what controls what property is being talked about in the report. And this section will also talk about the parcel ID of the property. It'll kind of give all of the reference numbers that you would need to identify the property in the county's various systems. The next section is going to be all about taxes. So in this case, you're going to see what is the assessed value of the property for purposes of tax assessments. That way, if you wanted to know, perhaps the tax value got reassessed and you want to know what the taxes will be going forward, you could find the county's tax rates and apply it to that assessed value to get a good idea of what your taxes would be going forward. So the assessed value is useful to know what number the county is using to figure out what they're charging you in taxes. Now you'll also see in this section if there are any delinquent taxes. So if there are any prior years, typically in North Carolina, it's 10 years looking back because that's the time period where taxes can be foreclosed on if they're unpaid. So 10-year look back of taxes and listing any delinquent taxes within that period. And then also if there are any exemptions. In some counties, there are elderly or veteran exemptions, or if there are any deferred taxes. And deferred taxes can come up when you have property that's in an agricultural or forestry use program. And in that case, the owner of the property gets a reduced tax rate as long as they keep the property in the program. But when they take the property out of the program, there are deferred taxes that they then have to pay for a certain time period. You'll also see the current tax amount here. So for the last year paid and what amount the last year paid was, and if there are any currently due taxes and what amount they are due. The title report will also list the book and page of any restrictions affecting the property. It's often way too cumbersome to try to list out every single restriction because most covenants, conditions, and restrictions documents can be extremely long and have all kinds of supplements and amendments. So instead, the title report will list where you can find in the public record those restrictions and look at them yourself to see if they affect the property in a way that you don't want them to, in order to determine if you actually want to buy the property or not. Some of these restrictions could be very particular as to how the property can be used. So perhaps it can't be used for a short-term rental or a rental at all. Perhaps there can be no commercial uses, or you can't use certain materials. So those are all important things that you're going to want to look at before you buy property to make sure you can do with the property what you want to do. It's also common for a title report to talk about the type of access the property has. So in North Carolina, it's required in the standard offer to purchase that the property have legal access to a public right-of-way. And that access doesn't have to be that the property abuts a public right-of-way. It could be over a private easement. So in that case, the title report's going to tell you whether the access is directly to the public right-of-way or if it's over a private easement, and if so, identifying that private easement. This could also apply to private streets within a subdivision because those will give you access to the public right-of-way, but they're not open to the general public, only for the homeowners in the neighborhood. And of course, a very important part of the title report is the chain of title. And the chain of title will be displayed for the search period. Now, the search period is not forever and ever, amen. You're not going back to the beginning of time. I guess, technically you could go back as far as the records would take you, but most states have a Marketable Title Act, and that is the time period required to search. So North Carolina has a 30-year Marketable Title Act, so that is the length typically of a full search. The scope of the search will be laid out in the engagement letter with your attorney or whoever is performing the title search for you, and then also the report will state the time period searched. So it could be that you're just searching the current owner, or it could be to the date of the issuance of the last owner's title insurance policy, whether that's the current owner or some previous owner. So that date will be listed there, and then during that time period, the chain of title will be listed. So this way you'll see all of the deeds that will affect the property during that time period. So this way you can see who actually conveyed the property to whom, and you can study whether that was properly done. And you can also see if the owners conveyed away any pieces of the property that they were given. Let's say you buy a 2-acre property and at some point you convey away 1 acre. Well, that will be listed in the chain of title so someone can see, oh, I thought this property was 2 acres, but they actually gave away 1 acre of it by this other deed. So the only thing left for them to convey is that final acre. So the chain of title is extremely important as part of the title report. And finally, this is such a crucial piece of the title report, and probably the thing that you're most concerned about when you're reviewing the title report is the list of encumbrances. So during the search period, what was discovered that could affect title? So this could be a deed of trust. Now in North Carolina, it is not a breach of contract for a property to have a deed of trust, but the seller, of course, has to pay off the deed of trust in order to convey the property with clear title. So some states may call this mortgage, but in our state we use deed of trust, and that will be recorded against the property to explain the lender that has an interest in the property and for what initial amount they loaned. Other things that you would see are easements. This could be utility easements. These could be easements for a particular use or for a person to be able to cross over property in order to get to another location. So whether it's for a driveway, this could be a shared well easement, all kinds of reasons you would have easements, but if they were filed during that search period, this is where you would see those listed. You'll also see if there are any judgments affecting the property. So in North Carolina, it's important to know that once a judgment is attached to a property, it's stuck until it's paid off. So even if a prior owner had a judgment while they own the property, if it wasn't paid off, it's still affecting the property. You'll also see listed here any special proceedings. So in North Carolina, that could be foreclosures, it could be partition actions. Those will be listed here, as will any pending actions that may affect the property or list pendants filed against the property. You'll see any claims of liens that are affecting the property. So claims of liens don't necessarily mean that there is a judgment, but it could mean that there could be one very soon. So you have to pay close attention to those claims of lien. And finally, you'll see if there are any estates affecting the property, which would require maybe additional people to sign than you were expecting, and then additional requirements in order for a title commitment to turn into a title policy. So there you have it. Those are the most important parts of a title report. There are all kinds of good tidbits in a title report, but it's very important that you pay close attention to all the things in this video so that you get a good picture of what's actually going on with the property.